Welcome to the project of the month number 35. This is Marty Sandell, an educator with Floriani. Floriani is a division of R&K Distributing. The table is set for our tea party this month. We will be creating tea party monograms. Let's begin by creating a folder for our project this month. Let's right-click on our desktop, New, Folder. Now I have already created my folder, but you will be naming this folder POM 35. And inside this folder will be placed all of the files that we will be creating for the project today. In addition to that, there are a couple of files that have been given to your dealer that needs to be included in your folder. This includes the napkin placement file, a scallop placement file, and then an actual scallop border from which we will create an heirloom looking border. Now that you have created your folder, let's begin the software portion of the lesson. I will be demonstrating today with the Floriani Total Control Professional. However, you may use the Floriani Embroidery Suite as well. So double-click on your desktop icon to open the program. When you are connected to the internet, the My Floriani Today page will open on the surface of your desktop. In that page is important information that you will find valuable to you as you continue to use your software. Whenever you are needing software support of any type, you may click here, and this will take you to our tech support page, where you will fill out a pick ticket and you will be responded to in a very short period of time. Remember that all these things I am showing you are free to those of you who do own Floriani software. You will find also a section of what's new in the Floriani Total Control. If you own the Floriani Embroidery Suite, you will find out what is new there as well. You may download a training manual which has lessons for you to follow. We have a learning and resource center. This has valuable videos and other printed materials that will be available to you. And of course, you may attend a live webinar with Walter Floriani. By clicking on this link, you will find the dates that these are available, and you need to sign up for these in advance. There also is a support forum. This forum operates 24/7 and is manned by monitors who do own the Floriani embroidery software. In addition to that, people like you are on this forum, willing to assist one another and answer questions that anyone may have. The last is the Floriani Digitizing Depot. It is here where you can request a JPEG to be digitized professionally. The turnaround time is about 2 days. If we look to the right, you may click here and find Floriani events that are being offered near you. We have started a new event type of program, so be sure to check here. If you've attended one of our events in the past, you will find that these are different and you won't want to miss one. Below are a list of 5 designs. These are free each month, and they go back collectively to October of 2009. They may be downloaded individually or downloaded all at one time and placed into your design library in your software. Let's begin by creating a new design. Before we begin creating your monogram, we want to customize our desktop and our workspace. If you notice, there are rulers across the top and down the side. When I right-click on either ruler, I get an options box. I am working in inches presently, but if you are accustomed to metric measurement, you may wish to work in metric. And when I click the metric, you can see that the numbers on the ruler bar indicate metric. The size of the squares are actually the same. Since I am metrically challenged, I am going to change this back to inches. This is set currently for 1-inch squares. You can see that across the top. It's 1 inch. By right-clicking, I can change those grid settings. I find it particularly helpful to work in a 1/2 inch grid setting. Occasionally I do go smaller than that, but when I zoom in and the picture becomes really large on my screen, I know that within any given square, my measurement is going to be what I set it in this grid setting options. Be sure that maintain aspect ratio is checked, and then in the blue box type in 0.5 and click OK. You can see now I have 1/2 inch grid markings instead of a full inch grid marking. There is a hoop selection over here on the left-hand toolbar. The designs that we will be creating are going to require an 8-inch hoop. An 8-inch hoop is equal to 200 by 200 millimeters. When you scroll through this list of machines, all of the hoop sizes that are available for that machine are listed here. So as you select your hoop size based on your machine, that is going to give you the appropriate measurement for your hoop. Now I have a brother hoop here at 202 by 200. When I click OK, that hoop appears in the center of my screen, and it is 8 inches, so it's 4 inches off center on either direction. Since I really don't need my hoop at this point to design what we're working with today, I can easily turn that off by left mouse clicking, and it is gone. Now that our workspace is set up, let's select the Monogram tool, which is up here on the upper toolbar. Left mouse click on the Monogram tool and left mouse click in your workspace. In the workspace, a set of letters will appear. We want to use a design, so if you scroll down and find Mono 40 and left mouse click, you will see a view of the monogram that we will be working with today. Also notice that the maximum height for this is 3.15. I'm interested in this primarily because I want to make this a 3-inch monogram for the corner of my bun cover. To do this, let's highlight the ABC, and I want you to type in the first letter of your last name. Once you have done that, we're going to change the height of our design. The height is in inches, so I will just type a 3 in there and click Apply. When I click Apply, you notice that my design comes up, enlarged on my screen. This will enable me to work with the design. From this design, we will actually be creating 2 embroidery files, one for the bun cover and the other for the corner of each of our napkins. To begin with, let's right-click on this highlighted square. By selecting the selection key, I now have everything in my monogram highlighted. I know that because it is blue. I also want you to notice that when we look in the sequence view, you will find information on this particular design. It tells you the number of stitches it takes to complete this design. as well as the first color in the design, which happens to be color 1, which is blue down here at the bottom. This is your color bar. From this color bar, you can change the colors in this design, which we will do in a few minutes. You also have the option of left-clicking on any of the colors, which will bring up thread charts. Realize that I will be working with the Floriani colors, but let's pretend that you have Isacord colors. If you have Isacord and you left-click on Isacord, that number 1 is going to change from Deep Ocean. So let's take a look here, from Deep Ocean to Min Windsor. And that is going to be an equivalent color to the Floriani color. So anytime you are wanting to work with colors that you either have, you can select the brand of thread. You can type a number in here. When you type a number in here, that color will automatically appear. If you select that color and click OK, you will have changed it on your toolbar. This is particularly nice when you have a variety of threads. I am going to click Cancel because I want to stay in my Floriani colors. Once again, we will highlight this monogram. And I want to ungroup or break up the text of this monogram, simply because this will allow me to customize the colors in the design. So let's right-click, Breakup Text. This is when you want to look over in the sequence bar once again. And you notice we have color 1, 2, and 3 now, as well as the number of stitches for each of those colors. Since we have broken up the text, let's left mouse click on the blue. And when we do, only the blue flowers show. For the purpose of the design, I am just going to turn the flowers into orange by simply right-clicking on the color. When I left-click, you will see that those flowers are indeed orange. And let's give you a 3D view so that you can see it just a little bit better. By left mouse clicking on the deep red, I have then highlighted that. I think I would like to make these light green. So if the Cape Green, if I right click on the Cape Green, you will see that it is indeed Cape Green. I then have an option, of course, to change my center initial color. That center initial color I rather like in the dark green, but let's change it to blue just for the purpose of the demonstration. When I left-click on my desktop, you will now see that I have a completely new colorway to my embroidery design. There are a few things that we will do in addition to this. We have the option now, with it separated, to create a different initial in the center. So by left mouse clicking and noticing the hand on there, I'm going to grab it and move it up off to the left in my screen. We will be auditioning 4 additional fonts. The first font we will select by selecting the text tool and left mouse clicking on our desktop. When we do that, you will see that our monogram is actually showing up on the screen. This is because it was the last text that I used. I want to use the down arrow and scroll up this time. And we are going to scroll up to Fancy Script. And Fancy Script is abbreviated FA, and left mouse click on Fancy Script. You will notice in the Text Properties window how Fancy Script appears. It also has a recommended height range with a maximum of 3.15. By selecting the fancy script, you notice that it does appear in the Text Properties window. With a recommended height range, we know that our letters are not going to be any taller than 1.18, so we are safe to use this script for the inside of our monogram. We do need to change the letter once again, so I'm going to change the letter. I want you to do likewise. And we'll leave it at the 1.18 size, and we're going to click Apply. I now have another S that I can very well use within the center of my monogram. You now see Fancy Script on the desktop. Let's select our selection key, and when we do that, that enables us to see the hand. We must move out of the text formatting in order to have a hand appear that we can move down into the center of our monogram. And as you do this, you may wish to change the size slightly. This is 1.18, but remember we measured that other S and it was 1.12. So why don't we just change this slightly and see if that fits a little bit better into our monogram. And by clicking Apply, you can see that we can move this within the monogram. I will set this off to the side because I want to select yet another font. My letter is still highlighted, and for that reason I need to left mouse click in an open space on my desktop to deselect it. Let's return to the Text tool once again and left mouse click on the desktop. The fancy script appears, and we know we want to use Floral Monogram next. So in the Floral Monogram box, let's once again put in our initial and change the height of that initial. I will make this 1.18 and click Apply. I now have an S that is going to look very much like the S that was in my monogram originally. So if we use our sizing box, we will go to Fit, and we will see all of the S's in there together. When we put this S next to the other, you can see that it is a little bit taller. So let's go ahead and move this into the center of our monogram. And although this would probably work, it might be nice to change that. So realize that you can make changes even after you've selected the size that you want, simply by retyping in the height box and reselecting that. And that looks like a good size to me. So we will place this one right next to the other S. At this point, remember, we need to left mouse click on our workspace to deselect it. Once again, we have the Text tool. We'll left mouse click on the desktop, and we want to select Gaudi. This will be OE, Gaudi OE, which stands for Old English. You see a vision of it in the text box. So let's repeat what we've done before by putting our initial in that text box. Gaudi is going to need to be about 0.95. The reason being, this is a rather wide letter, and this is where the sizing will change. It doesn't really always mean the height size, because as you know and work with letters, various letters are wider than the others. For instance, an M and a W would be wider than an I or a J. So for that reason, and it's even wider than an S. So for that reason, I am going to use the Gaudi. I have my S in there, and this time I'm going to type in 0.95 and click Apply. I now have a very large S, and once again, by going to Fit, this S will appear. And we will just kind of position that right there in the middle. And because of the extensions on this, you see it is necessary to have that a little bit less tall. By clicking the Undo button, and this could be done with any of the letters, that will return it to its original place. But I'm going to pull it right down here because I will be auditioning these eventually. We do have one last font to take a look at. Since this is highlighted, remember we must left mouse click on the desktop to deselect it. Once again, select the text tool, which will give us the ability to select a different font. Goudy shows up again, but let's scroll down just a bit to Lindsey Monogram. Now Lindsey Monogram is going to be quite a bit more narrow than the Goudy Old English was. Once again, type in your letter, and we will change the height. Type in 1.18. Now this is one, since it's kind of tall and skinny, that you may want to have that full size of 1.18. And we'll click Apply. When we do that, we have another type of font. All of these will look beautiful inside the monograms. There is no right or wrong font to select for your monogram. And let's move this back down into the center. We will pause at this point to allow you to create your monogram. When we return, we will do the final steps on our monogram. Have fun, don't be too particular, because remember there is always the undo and redo button. And drawing a box around just those S's. They are highlighted. Hit the delete key and you are back to your original design. We have one more thing we want to do with this before we save it. So left mouse click to deselect. And remember, it's always very easy to work in the sequence view when you're trying to select individual items rather than trying to work directly on your desktop. With the extra fonts removed, we have one last step before we save our design. I'm going to left mouse click on my first color. Remember, mine is blue, yours may be another color. Hold down the Control key and left mouse click on color 2. This highlights our frame. We did break it apart, but we want to put it back together. So if we come up to the top here and left mouse click the group icon, our design is now grouped. Our frame is grouped. Now that that is grouped, hold down your Control key once again, and we're going to select color 3, which will be your initial. When we do that, we have alignment tools up at the top. I am going to select the center align tool because this will align all of those areas together. Since these items have been grouped individually, they will remain grouped individually. So when we click the align, I must have had that pretty close to the center because generally speaking, your initial will move. I'm going to left mouse click to deselect it. As I look at this, even though my software tells me that that S is precisely in the middle of my design, which it actually is, but I would like to change it just a little bit. So by left mouse clicking on your initial, if it is not positioned as you would like, hold down your control key. On your keyboard, you will see a set of 4 arrows pointing left and right and top and bottom. I would like to move this over just a little bit. And when you want to really do precise movement, this is a great way to do it. And then I will raise it up just a little bit. As I look at this, I like the placement. So at this point, I will left mouse click in my desktop, and this will be my design. Once again, select your selection tool. Draw a box around this, and let's group the entire monogram. So we're back almost to where we started, where the monogram was grouped in the very beginning. So our monogram is now grouped. We are going to want to save this in the POM 35 folder. You notice that my scallop design is sitting there ready to be used in a few minutes. So I am saved in the POM 35 folder. Let's rename this Design Bun Cover and click Save. And you can see that it has taken on a new name. Let's create a new design. And as we create a new design, I want you to do File, Merge. And we are going to select the design that we just created, the bun cover, and do OK. You notice, contrary to before, how when I merge a design, it actually comes in centered in my desktop. So with that centered in the desktop, we want to use this same monogram for the corners of our 4 napkins, which means we need to transform this by right mouse clicking, transform. We're interested mostly in the height at this point. So with aspect ratio maintained, checked, it means that whatever we change in any of these boxes is going to change both the width and the height. But we're more concerned about the height right now. So we're going to highlight the 3 and type in 2.5. We will be making the monograms on the napkins 2.5. And as you can see, it is quite a bit smaller. Let's save this monogram by doing File, Save As once again. And by saving this design, we would like to save this design as Napkin Corner. And click Save. Both of those files now appear in our POM 35 folder. And you can see we indeed have Napkin Corner down at the bottom. Working with our tabs, let's go back to the bun cover by left mouse clicking on the tab. When we left mouse click, we can grab this and move this into the center of our desktop. And basically, I need to scroll down here until I can see both arrows. I'll do to fit. I now have this design centered right here. And I probably need to lower it a little bit, but I'm going to wait a minute because we want to come in once again and do File, Load Backdrop. Our POM 35 folder is going to open up. Let's select the scallop placement and click OK. The scallop placement comes up, and we will eventually be moving our monogram. But before we do, let's left mouse click to deselect it and go under File, Merge. And when we do File Merge, we want to use this scallop design that was in your POM 35 folder. So left mouse click and open. When we open this design, if you look closely, and let me zoom in so that you can see for just a minute, you can see that my lines do not exactly match up to the trace lines. Since it is highlighted, and let's click the selection key once again so we get out of the magnifying. Hold down that control key and let's click the up arrow. As we click this up arrow, you can see that those lines are aligning. And we want to see our whole design, so let's come up here and click to fit. We now have everything in there close and nicely together. In the sequence view, you will see that this is indeed a run line. So by left mouse clicking on that run line, I want to copy it and paste it. There are icons on the toolbar at the top. There's a copy, so let's copy it. And then let's paste it. And as you can see, we do have two run lines there. They are both red, but I would like this run line that's highlighted to be blue. So right mouse click, and we now have a blue run line, as you see. This run line we want to transform. So we're going to left mouse click on it. I can come up here and select this little button, Transform, or do what I'm used to doing by right clicking and find Transform. So Transform. And aspect ratio has been checked to maintain, as well as the height and width of this portion of the scallop. I would like this scallop to be 88%. So by typing in 88 in either of those boxes and clicking Apply, I now have a scallop that is smaller than the one I had originally. Once again, we're going to move this. So let's hold down the control key and use our up arrow again. Should be moving just a little bit. If yours doesn't, just click on it again and then move it. I was stuck there for just a minute. So let's move it up. And you see, I'm moving it up so it is visually even. This is a run line at this point. It shows you right here. It's a run line. In the Properties box, let's change this to a motif. Then click the down arrow to find *01 DJ. Left mouse. Let's change the pattern length to 7 millimeters. So just type in 7 and click Apply. When I take a look at this, my scallops are not really totally defined. because of the nature of the pattern. So we want to edit that just a little bit. So left mouse click, and I'm going to zoom in here close so you can see what I'm doing, just a couple, and then you will go around the balance of your design to do likewise. Once I have zoomed in, it is necessary for me to once again select the selection tool so I have access to my shape edit tool. As you look at the scallops, you notice that there's a dip in the top of each of the scallops all the way around. We want to take that, left mouse click, and pull it in just a little bit, like so. And we'll pull this one in just a little bit. And I want you to go all the way around your design, pulling in each of those. When you get to the tip, just bypass that and do the square here and the square over here. So we will pause now for a few minutes so you can complete this procedure. That does indeed create a little better scallop for us in working with our design. If you see any little area, like I just see one right here, I can pull that in and just right mouse click, update path. And that will change those. So there's no reason to be too persnickety with any of this. You basically, if you click the selection tool, that will disable the edit tool. We can now grab our monogram by left mouse clicking and highlighting it. I can either pull it straight down or use those arrow keys and just hold the down arrow key, and it's going to move when I release it. You can see that my design will move. Otherwise, I'm just going to grab it and move it into a position that I think is suitable and looks nice for my eventual design. And let's just left mouse click off and take a look at what our design is going to look like. Now that my monogram is in place, let's do Control A, which is going to highlight all of them. At this point, we really want to align this horizontal center, so we're sure that everything is right, and it is. So we are now ready to make one last change, and that is this red run line needs to stay in here. It is not a line that we are going to stitch, but because I have provided you with printouts of this design, we want to be sure that this remains in here just for the purpose of the placement of the monogram. Since we are not going to stitch this final red line, we want to move it to the front. And we have two icons up here which allows you to easily move sections of designs as you work. The first one is going to be move to front, and the second is move to back. Move to front means you want it to stitch last. So let's left mouse click, and as we do, watch your sequence view, and you will see that that red outline will indeed be last. Our design is now complete, so we are ready to save the design. We will save this design twice. First, we will save it as a C2S, so File, Save As. And we want to save it in the POM 35, but this time we're going to call this Mono Corner. So M-O-N-O, corner. So we'll just do save. Then come back and do File, Save As, and save it in the format of your machine. and you have many, many formats to select from. So I'm sure that you are going to find your machine listed among these. So select your machine. I happen to be sewing with a Janome to do this. So if I save mine as Janome Elna and do save, I will now have that format in my POM 35 folder. Let's close this design altogether, which will enable us to work with the napkin design. We are ready now to create our 4 napkin corners. Let's create a new document. And as we create this new document, you see that it is design 3, but I want to close this. The backdrop tool is particularly convenient if you want to scan in an item from your scanner. I took care of the scanning portion of this for you by creating the scallop placement line as well as the 4-up napkin placement. This will be a valuable backdrop to have because you'll be able to use this over and over again. So let's click open, and you can see that that appears on my desktop. So that you can see a little better what I am doing, I'm going to turn off the grid. Now that we have the placement line for our 4 napkins on the screen as a backdrop, let's click the hoop right now. And remember, we want a 200 by 200 or whichever hoop you may have that will work as an 8-inch hoop. And we're going to click OK. Those placement lines are now centered within that hoop. Let's come up and do File Merge, and we want to select the napkin corner that we created previously, and there is a little view of it. To make sure that we have the proper monogram, you notice that the dimension in height is 2.5 inches. So we do have the correct one. Let's click Open, and it is going to appear in the center of our screen. The first thing we want to do while it's highlighted is to rotate this monogram 45 degrees to the left. This is done by clicking the Rotate Left icon. And as we do the Rotate Left icon, let's move it up here into the square. I want to leave enough room between it and the edge of my hoop, but I want to be far enough away from the hem stitching so that you have the ability to appreciate that hem stitching. So this corner will allow me to do that. The next thing I will do is a copy and paste of this. So we'll do copy and we'll do paste. We now have 2 on our desktop, and you can see we have a total of 6 right here. So we have 2 on the desktop. Let's click the Rotate Right button twice. Once and twice. We can then move this across and locate it in that corner. By selecting all, Control A, we want to align the lower part of that design. So we'll come up to our alignment tools and say, left mouse click, we want to align the bottom. So you can see that slightly moved that one down. Now the thing that is important here is we want to be sure that we're pretty much equal distance from this line. Your graph will be of tremendous help to you, the grid. So as you look at the grid, you can kind of tell how much how far you're extending over in each direction. With this particular monogram, let's go ahead and move that to the right just a little bit. Hold down your control key and we'll move this over just slightly to the right until it looks optically even, which it does. The other thing we want to notice is we look up here at the top. It shows our width at 7.33 inches. The maximum width and height for an 8-inch hoop is 7.78. So we are well within our 8-inch hoop. Let's select all by doing Control A so that everything is selected. And as those are selected, let's come up and do Edit, Resequence by Color. And I want you to look in your sequence view as we do this. When we resequence by color, you can see that we have brought this back down to 3 different colors rather than having 6. Grab our selection key and just draw a box around those 2 to highlight both of them together. And we will group this. We know that it's grouped because when we left click over here, you can see that those items are grouped. You'll be surprised how easy it is to set this up. So let's left mouse click again, and we're going to do copy and paste one more time. So copy, paste, and let's rotate this 4 times. When we rotate this the 4 times, we can then grab this and bring it down with the hand icon. Bring it down so that it is aligned fairly well with the one on the top. By holding your control key down and left mouse clicking on the 2 upper, we now can align these. And this time I want to use either the left align or the right align. It doesn't matter which one you use because we want to be sure. And they really didn't move very much, as you can see, but we do know that now all of these are in alignment. You notice too that the width is 7.37, so it's just a little bit wider than the 7.33, which is not significant at all. When you have those positioned as you like them, we want to then group these. And we can go up to Edit, Resequence by Color, and once again we're back to the 3 colors. You now have your design ready to save. It is now time to save our design. We will do File, Save As. You are going to save this as napkins and then save it in that folder. You want to save it once again in your machine format. Both of your files will now be ready to be stitched. Simply transfer your machine formatted style in the usual way to your machine, and you will be ready to stitch. I have a few tips for you on the embroidery process. The 2 backdrops that we have used for our software portion need to be printed onto wet and gone tacky sheets. You will need one for the napkins and one for the bun covered corner. In addition to that, as we hoop these, please put an additional piece of wet and gone. I did not use the wet and gone tacky because 2 layers of tacky sometimes is more difficult to stitch through. Using the tacky side of the template, you are able to position your scallops as well as your napkins perfectly. It is important for you to select the most perfect corner on the napkins and the most balanced scallop for your bun corner. The printed instructions for this lesson are available to you, and all the particulars for embroidering will be included in those. Be sure to refer to that. Both of these projects stitch very quickly, and you will enjoy using them. For my samples, I did use a 40 weight thread. However, Floriani has a wonderful 60 weight thread, and with the 60 weight thread, you will get a much more delicate monogram. So you may want to do a test stitch of both of the designs and decide which one you wish to use. I recommend that you slow your machine down to 500 stitches per minute so that satin stitch forms smoothly. I realize that many of us are accustomed to stitching quickly, but you will be much more satisfied with the end result. If you do not want white thread on the underside of your work, wind bobbins to match the upper thread. This is particularly helpful if you have tension problems with your machine. With the 60 weight thread, you may wind bobbins similar to the color on the top. Bobbin thread is generally 60 weight, so you may choose to use the colored Floriani thread on the top as well. Water-soluble stabilizer will be placed on the surface of the hoop, attaching it with embroidery perfection tape. By using a topper, this will enable you to steam your embroidery when complete and allow those surface stitches to raise above the layer of fabric. After steaming, remove what soluble topper and whatever wet and gone you can from the underside of your work. This will then allow you to soak both sets of embroidery in water and rub the edges together, removing most of the soluble stabilizer. Please refer to the audio portion of the PowerPoint to see my tips on drying your embroidery on a flat surface. I hope you have enjoyed the tea party today and that you will return again for some other wonderful fun projects. It's been my pleasure being with you. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.